Matt Stepp with Dave Campbell's Texas Football here at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, here with Texas basketball manager and Dave Campbell's social media strategist, Ishmael Johnson. And we just wrapped up Texas high school basketball season with 4 great games here at the Alamo Dome today. We're going to do a recap of all 4 games-ish, and let's start with the morning session first. The 11 a.m. game as Mansfield Summit avenges a regular season loss to Fort Bend Marshall, winning 54-47. Summit forward Ian Seda, MVP. What a performance from that Summit defense. Just had Fort Bend Marshall in a torture chamber all day, didn't they?
They really did. If you want some highlights of this game, they're going to be defensive, right? They're going to be the fact that Fort Bend Marshall had to move the ball around constantly, trying to pick and prod at that Mansfield Summit defense. And this Mansfield Summit, I should mention, this is one of the beneficiaries of the division split, right? Mansfield Summit's a team that ran into a team. We'll talk about maybe another one of these teams in a bit. Run into teams like Kimball, ran into teams like that in the DFW area, finally able to break through. And they don't often get to showcase that defense on the state level. Mm-hmm. It's been that way for a while. This Mansfield Summit team is a good program, finally breaking through. And yeah, they had no answer. Fort Bend Marshall had no answer, despite having really good. I mean, look, Ian Lowe, fantastic. I believe he fouled out with 28 points.
When he fouled out of the game in the fourth quarter, he had 28 of Fort Bend Marshall's 37 points.
Yeah.
He put the team on his back and nearly willed Fort Bend Marshall to a. They got it to within 5 late in the game and just couldn't get over the hump. Great team out of the Houston area, but Mansfield Summit, that defense, Ian said, and their point guard, Theo Brandon, had a great. I love him. He's an operator running that offense, did a great job. Mansfield Summit, a really nice team. Congrats to those guys in the state championship. Maybe the game of the day, the second game of the day. What a crowd we had for that game. Unbelievable showing as Beaumont West Brook knocks off Birdville 63-57 in a great overtime game. Elijah Garrett takes home MVP honors for Beaumont West Brook.
Look, when you talk about big-time playmakers and big-time performances, you can't overlook Elijah Garrett and Beaumont West Brook. I mentioned this on the call. I was on the call with Tommy for this one. Beaumont West Brook was that other program in the Golden Triangle, right? They saw Silsby hoist trophies. They saw their crosstown rival United hoist trophies. They saw Kuntz hoist a trophy, and they were the one that was left out of the 409. You cannot underestimate how big this title was for that program. I mean, just a stellar game. The best atmosphere of the weekend by far. Birdville student section was right over there and behind the basket. It felt like an away game.
Anyone left in North Birdville's entire school showed up. It was crazy, their student section turnout. Really unbelievable. Birdville, number 1. Gosh, I can't think of his name now, and I should have prepped better for the video. But number 1 for Birdville had a great game as well. They're 6'7" forward, shot the ball well. I think Birdville's going to look back at this game kicking themselves.
Sawyer Dotson.
Yep.
Fantastic game from him.
He will. They were down 18 at one point.
I believe he scored 25 points, but the difference was the free throw shooting in that game.
Yeah.
Particularly, unfortunately, he did not shoot the free throws well.
Yeah.
Me and Tommy were talking about on the broadcast. It's a little bit of the difference between playing only the final here, I think, versus playing a semi and then a final, because you only get one shoot around to get used to this arena, to get used to the depth perception. Traditionally, you get the semifinal, you get a shoot around before the semifinal, and if you win, you get another shoot around, right? And so you play 3 times on this floor before you play for a state championship. Here, you get one shoot around and you're going. And I think we saw a lot of missed free throws and a lot of 3-point misses from all over, not just Birdville. I'm not picking on Birdville, but just the latest.
Kennedale had some bad shooting, free throw shooting. They won.
I mean, Bel Air, Shelton Henderson really struggled in the 6A D1 game. I think that's something that a lot of teams and a lot of coaches are going to have to consider now that this is going to be a finals-only venue.
Yes, absolutely. But a great game. Congrats to Beaumont West. Now the evening session, we had a couple of first-timers in the 6A D2 state championship as Denton Guyer hangs on for a 48-47 win over Katie Jordan. Silas Rodriguez, the junior guard, 6'4" junior guard, had 20 points, taking home MVP honors as Denton Guyer wins their first state championship.
Yeah, look, I mean, Grant Long and that staff has been waiting a long time for this one, right?
Sure.
Guyer's been a power, bridesmaid, never a bride type of basketball program for a long time. And a lot of people saw this team make it, and they're like, that's the team for Guyer that makes it? And credit to those guys. Silas Rodriguez was insanely fun to watch. He's a big-time shot maker. You can tell every moment they needed a bucket, he wanted the ball. And he's able to rise up and hit that shot. He had a little bit of swagger to him.
Oh, he's got confidence.
Yeah, he throws the 3 on his face as he's going down. Confident. He was insanely fun. But this whole Guyer team, it was a lot of by committee, right? Of course, Rodriguez wins because he was the leading scorer and hit a couple big shots down the stretch. But this whole Guyer team, probably not going to see a lot of guys go D1 on that team. But
Jordan Lowry, the only one UT Arlington commit.
Yes,
he's the leading scorer. He only had, I think, 8, but he had 10 rebounds. I think he had 4 steals and 3 blocks.
Right.
So he did it in other ways for Guyer. Katie Jordan, another team by committee, Holt, point guard. Had a really fun to watch. Their point guard hit some big shots to bring. They were down 14 at one point in the first half and came back. Made it. It was a nip and tuck game. But Rodriguez's three at the top of the key was the difference in the game. As Denton Guyer. Credit to Katie Jordan, though, fourth-year varsity program, 4 straight 20-win seasons playing for a state championship. Very, very impressive from the Warriors, and they'll be back there in the Houston area. Finally, to close it out, we had Duncanville hanging on for a 54-52 win over Houston Bel Air. Bel Air misses a wide-open three-pointer that would have won the game as time expired, and the Duncanville Panthers hang on for the state championship. Caden Bug Edwards, the TCU commit, was the MVP. Talk about a shot maker. Bug Edwards is one of those. Yeah,
I was on the call with Roger for this game, and he was pretty pedestrian in the first half, right? I believe he scored 19 of his points in the second half. And particularly, I think what they needed from him to do is be that scorer. He was very good defensively in the first half, but they needed Beckham Black finished with 6 assists. They had their initiator. They had guys making plays defensively. Coach Peavy needed his scorer to be a scorer. He finished with no assists because they didn't need him to be anything else but the shot maker. And down the stretch, he found his shot. He made some tough baskets. And in the end, he just made a little bit more. Credit to Bel Air, though. This is a team that you look at the roster and you look at the star power for Duncanville, right? Those guys are going to probably have 3, 4, 5, 6 players go play D1, maybe more. Beckham Black, just a sophomore. Cam Smith, Chris Hunt, just a sophomore. And so we looked at, even though they had Sheldon Henderson, we looked at Bel Air. Ooh, is this team overmatched? Credit Anthony Andrews, the big man for Bel Air, saw mismatches. He's had some offers from A&M. He's a 3-star athlete, according to 247. He saw mismatches, and Coach Bruce said, you know what, we're going to go big, and we're going to feed our big men. Henderson and Andrews finished in the second half with, I believe, 27 of their 31 points.
Yeah, they were huge. Shelton Henderson was as advertised. The Duke commit, a Duke signee, excuse me. He was as advertised. He is a full-grown adult male playing basketball out here at the high school level. He is he does it all. He's a 6'7" combo forward who can handle the ball. He hit a couple of big threes down the stretch, and he is as advertised. A good team for Bel Air. Just come up a little bit short against Duncanville, and unfortunately for the Houston area, they came up 0 for 5 this weekend against the Dallas area in those 5 matchups. So right now, I'd say the DFW area overall just continues their dominance in basketball.
Yeah, unfortunately, they ran into kind of some resurgent dynasties. You look at Kimball, right? Mm-hmm. Kimball winning in 4A, dropping down to 4A and winning there. And you look at Duncanville. It was a bit of a drought by Duncanville standards, right? It was a drought, quote unquote.
2 years,
yeah,
3 years.
2-3 years if you don't want to count the recognized one in 22. And one thing I looked at the roster heading into the 6A D1 game, none of those players had been at state. Because Caden Edwards was a freshman when their title got vindicated. So technically, none of them had played on the floor at the Alamo Dome. So that was a little bit of an unusual thing for Coach Peavy to be like, kind of an inexperienced squad here.
Duncanville's a regular down here, y'all.
Yeah, exactly.
They're probably going to be back.
They're probably going to be back again. They basically only lose Cam Smith and Bug Edwards, who's going to TCU. So they're probably running it back. I'm telling you, Beckham Black's probably going to be is one of the best point guards in the state. The way he picked and prodded at that Bel Air defense that held up so well for most of the game. I mean, Coach Peavy, I will say in the post-game interview, he's a guy that you would think that he hasn't won as much as he has.
Sure.
His tone is very appreciative. His tone is very humble and can't believe we did it again. It's very, some people may look like, oh, come on, you've won. But that is a guy who you can tell cherishes every single title with every single team he has.
He's got a great program there at Duncanville. And that wraps up the 2024-25 Texas high school basketball season here from San Antonio. Appreciate Ishmael Johnson and the entire crew at Dave Campbell's for great coverage of the boys and girls events the past 2 weeks. So stay with TexasFootball.com and Dave Campbell's on all your social media outlets for more great coverage from San Antonio.